All right. So as you have taken the time this week to read chapter 3, di ba? This is our lesson now, chapter 3. Can anybody share what they have like understood so far from the readings? Kung sa inyo murag key insight lang from chapter 3. Anybody? Um, what can you recall about the reading, chapter 3? Unsa title? It's Mr. Phil. Can you tell me what the title of chapter 3 is? Mr. Phil Mareben, can you share to us sige dito yung title sa chapter? Mr. Phil? Oh, nawala man. Sige lang. Perhaps dili ka dungog or sa dili ka. Chapter 3 has the title, The Ethical and Social Responsibilities of Entrepreneurs. Di ba? So, here, we have to understand that the entrepreneurial mind has an ethical dimension, right? Although the primary concern of businesses, enterprises, is profit, this must not be done in a way that disregards basic respect for like the workers, basic respect of the right of the consumers, right? So this chapter begins with the case of Martin, I think, how do you pronounce this? Martin Shkreli, right? Martin Shkreli. What did he do? He increased the price of a life-saving HIV drug overnight because saka ang price presyo, di ba? Nang to say nakitaan nga HIV nga drug, brato pa to upon the day of discovery, $13.5. Iyang gikalit og imo $750 per pill. So the question here is, was that act of raising the price quickly, immediately, of the life-saving drug ethical? Okay, that's the question. Right? And the public immediately saw it as unethical. So allow me to discuss na lang and listen na lang kay we're running out of time. Putol ang Zoom meeting. So that's the issue, right? As an entrepreneur, would it be okay for you to increase the price of your um, goods so much that it becomes inaccessible and only the rich people can buy it? Especially when um, ang imong ibaligya is a life-saving nga tambal, right? So that was the situation that this chapter begins with, right? So there are different theories as to um, what is the priority of a company. So there is this other scenario, di ba? This other scenario is now about um magyapunta ka scenario. Still about Shkreli, but it's now analyzed under the rubric of um the theory called something else, a theory. The view that the priority of a company is to increase profit. Okay, this is the capitalist stance, di ba? But it is being nuanced here because na devastating consequences if wala na po kay consideration sa rights sa consumers. Okay. So, there's this section called being an ethical entrepreneur. Being an ethical entrepreneur. It says here, whenever you think about the behavior you expect of yourself in both your professional or personal life, you are engaging in a philosophical dialogue with yourself to establish the standards of behavior you wish to uphold. So, sa may angay nimong buhaton, that's ethics, right? So, ang title sa chapter is The Ethical and Social Responsibilities of Entrepreneur. One of the um, aspects or branches of ethics is applied ethics. And one of the sub-branches of applied ethics is business ethics. Okay? So, mo na siya, business ethics itong chapter. So, it says here, ethical conduct by entrepreneurs or business owners is not only the right way to behave, but it also burnishes our own professional reputation as business leaders of integrity. So, um, dili lang dili lang nga mabuo kung tarong ka nga tarong ka nga business owner, um, naa ka integrity, yes. That's the virtue ethics analysis nga. You have to be a virtuous entrepreneur. But practically as well, in a utilitarian sense, we'll talk about these different frameworks later on. In a utilitarian sense, it will also be beneficial for you if your reputation is that you are an ethical entrepreneur. Why? Because ganahan makig-business ang mga tao nimo, right? Because kaybaw sila that you will play fair, that you will not cheat them, diba? In your business transactions. So yes, it's good to be a moral person, and this is manifested in how you do business. But at the same time, it will also be um, beneficial practically for you as a business owner to be ethical. Because once you get the reputation that you are a fair player, okay, an ethical entrepreneur, people will want to do business with you, and they will also be fair with you. They will not have that very high suspicion that you will take advantage of them. So integrity here is defined as unity between what we say and what we do. That's integrity. What we say, in short, say itong giingon, and say to actions, what we do. When those are aligned, that means they have integrity. Now, here you are asked, suppose you are given two options when you graduate. What will you choose? The first option is dako kang sweldo, but then wa kay undang trabaho. The second option is gamay-gamay kang sweldo, but then taas kag freedom. So here the question is about values na pod. What do you value? Do you value flexibility more than a high pay? This is according to the text. This is typically the setting in volunteer work, right? You receive just on an honorarium, but you are free to do whatever you want. It's not very rigid. But if you're in a big business, like when example, you want to work in McDo. No, not McDo. Not McDo is not a very good example because the pay is low. Think of another company nga dakog sweldo, but then you are demanded so much daghan kag output. Yeah. Like for example, call centers, right? So it's also a matter of values. In short, the point here is that in entrepreneurship, you still have to consider your values, what you really prioritize, and your ethics. Okay. So the chapter then turns to the Equifax data breach, which is um, an event in US wherein na data sa pila to ka tao sa US, nearly half sa tibok US population no? Nga na sila data, and then hackers gained unauthorized access, okay, to servers used there. So in short, na endanger ang data sa half sa tibuok population sa United States. And it's a national security issue, right? Because saan na lang og madung to nga data to enemies of the United States, like terrorists, Russia, right? So it's a very big issue at that time. Now, if you are the business owner of Equifax and it's your responsibility to respond to this hacking, nga imuhang company mo nagtag-iya sa data nga naggunit sa data nga na hack, what do you have to do? The ethical thing to do is to announce it, di ba? Imong i-inform ang mga customers nimo that apologies, that situation, your data has been compromised, right? Pero what's the problem? Ngano nahimo man isang example dire? It's because the executives of Equifax, ng mga business owner, wa sila ning saba nga ang data de silang consumers na compromise na hack. What did they do? Ilan na lang gibaligya ang nearly $2 million worth of company stock after they found out about the hacking. Ilan na lang gibaligya no ang stocks nila without telling their mga sana ka business nga compromise na di ang data nga naa nila nga na-hack di ay sila. Nya karon sa nahuman na sila og baligya, silang stocks worth $2 million. Ana pa sila ning publicly announce nga na-hack di ay sila. Right? Now, was it ethical to sell with to deceive the people nga imong ka business nga di ka mosaba nga naa di ay hacking nga nahitabo na di akong problema niya imo nang nahumag baligya niya afterwards nahuman nagbaligya ana nakamutugan nga naa di problem sa imong service. Of course that is very unethical. Okay, so the problem is unsa may gibuhat ning gipriso ba ang mga Equifax nga business owners? Wala. As far as I know, wala. Why? Mao ni naka-complicate because ang sumpay is the CEO and the different people in the admin of Equifax simply resigned. Igo ra ning resign. So, the problem remained unsolved. Yes, CEO as a legal entity is liable, but ang mga tao nga behind it were not put in the situation nga mubay amurag na sila'y mabuhat. They were not able to like make amends for their mistake. So daghan pa ning details ani. And can you think about this? Okay, think this through on your own. Daghan pa ning nuances diri. But this is a clear example nga ethics is really an issue in labi na data nga involved, di ba? Labi nagmagunit imong company og data. Take for example, sa Bohol context, for example. Can you recall during COVID times nga when you enter a mall, we are required to write our names, di ba? Sulat ang name, then email address, contact number.
Sir, dito ethical.
Yes, yes. Dito? Yeah. Okay. So, can you recall nga atong numbers kay na suwat sa mga bond paper, di ba? Katong mga form nga murag requirement aron ma-record contact tracing, di ba? When you enter a mall. Before that, some have observed that dili pa nga nakalala ang spread sa mga text bitaw nga way klaro kanang klaro mga spam before COVID di pa nga nakalala na ato pero dili nga nakalala. But then after that time nga nagsige ta og suwat sa atong mga contact numbers in different business establishments, even the mall, BQICM, immediately after that time, ning kalit og kadaghan, no? Ang mga spam nga messages. Ano bitaw? So example na spam nga messages like good day. Email me in blank blank blank. You have a reward. Di ba? You're hired. You are hired. Blah, 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 blah. So, klaro nga spam. Yung kanong kalit mo sila kuan. That shows that our data has been compromised. This is the Philippines version of the Equifax data breach talked about in this chapter. Right? Naabay na nubag? Wala. Right? Nagkuan na lang ta, nag-registration na lang ta sa ato ang SIM cards. Kaya aron ma-avoid lagi ning mga spam mga ani, wa magyapon. In short, data privacy has been compromised, and yet those who are responsible for it are free. They did not suffer any consequence. So if you will become a business owner, you'll become an entrepreneur, take note of this. Dili nga magminaro, di bitaw di bitaw sure what if you'll be found out, di ba? So nga na. The chapter calls for integrity, and the chapter also reminds us that it's beneficial for a company to be reputed to be ethical. Okay. So here's there's a section called developing a moral compass. Okay. When you have a good character at an individual and at a corporate level, you are able to earn trust. Di ba? Consumers and your fellow entrepreneurs will trust you. If you are consistent in your values, you have integrity. So that's the major argument of this chapter. What are these values? This include what are these qualities? This include trust, truthfulness, respect, responsibility, commitment, care, love, and justice. For example, ganahan ba mo mamalit anang mga kanang food supplement kamo ingon nga maayo ani ang tanang sakit sa tibok kalibutan. Diba? Uinom ka ani mawa ang ubo, mawa ang sipon, mawa ang diabetes, mawa ang cancer. Diba? No, because that's clearly deception. Right? It's too good to be true. Nga, mingon pa sila nga kanang certified by doctors. Kinsa man nga doktor. So in short, there's no transparency. There might be deception as well. So in short, at least for consumers who are critical, dito ta mamalit ana. Right? So in short, naapoy practical benefit if you are truthful in your advertising, for example. Because you will retain the critically minded customers. Be honest lang gud nga, wala ni siya no approved therapeutic claims. Wala. Naalala na siya benefits kinagmay, but mura na. Okay? So, nga na. Do not go beyond what is clearly evidenced. So, now, in addition to ethical issues, and by the way, asa naman to? Naman to yung section good ani that talks about There's this section here which talks about the different ethical frameworks, di ba? So, dira. To return to the case of Martin Shkreli, let us examine it through some foundational theoretical lenses based on ethical theories. Okay. Unsa man ang lista diri? Utilitarianism, that's number 1. Pero utilitarianism, akong i-highlight ha. Highlight. Number 2, duty-based ethics. Unsa man ang duty-based ethics is called deontology. And number 3, virtue ethics. Kinsa man eh. This is primarily from Aristotle. These ethical theories provide a systematic means of examining and evaluating business conduct. In short, mura na sila mga lens ba? For example, na ay scenario. Kanya, Mangutan na kag, is this good or bad? Kaning action ani nga tao, person A, is this good or what? Is this bad? For what reason? Why? So, these frameworks, utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue ethics, provide you a guide, no, a standard, a baseline by which to judge if good or bad ba na siya and why. Okay? So, ano ito sugod sa first framework na gidiscuss diri. The first framework is called utilitarianism. Utilitarian. Ay, nauna ang Kantian, sorry. Kantian nga deontological or duty-based ethics. So, ingon ani. From an ethical theory perspective, Kantian or duty-based ethics emphasizes the underlying intent or reason behind the decision and whether the decision is good or bad. In short, ang gitanaw sa deontology is ang intention sa gabuhat sa action. If maayo ang intention, then good the action. You do not look at the consequence. Okay? Because kung mutanaw ka sa consequence, utilitarian na. Because in utilitarianism, an action is good if it has a good effect. Muna utilitarianism. It's the effect that you look at in utilitarianism. Bisan pag unsay imong intention, according to utilitarianism, basta maayo nagresulta, the action was good. Lahi sa deontology, nga, bisan pag unsay resulta ana, if your intention was good, then the action was good. Have you noticed the difference? Can you clearly identify the difference, di ba? Again, in utilitarianism, it's the framework nga makapaingon nimo nga good ang usa ka action if maayo ang resulta. Bad ang action if daotan ang resulta. You do not look at the intention of the doer. Dili na primary consideration. What you look at is the consequence. Munang utility, utilitarianism. Nga naman ang utility man. Utility simply means in entrepreneurship, in economics, utility simply means maayo ba nig resulta? Okay? Does it make the action is it beneficial? Utility is beneficial, being beneficial, di ba? In the consumer side, it's satisfaction. So, in short, when you look at an action, if it has a beneficial effect, then it is a good action. If it is it gives a harmful or not very beneficial effect, that action was bad. Sa Kantian ethics, you do not look at the effect, you look at the intention. Was the person doing it because of a good intention? At least in this crude version of deontology, sa pinaka-basic, if the intention was good, the action was good. If the intention was bad, the action itself is bad. Now, there are some nuances there, but dili na to na palagmana. Finally, ang third nga ethical framework is virtue ethics. In virtue ethics, you look at not the consequences of the action, not the intention, because that's deontology. Right? Instead, in virtue ethics, you look at instead the virtues. Sangan pa lang daano, virtue ethics. So in short, you ask the question, is this action something that a virtuous person, a person with good character, will do? Okay? Tanaw niyo ba? Kaning action, mo ba ni buhaton sa usa ka tawo nga tarong? If yes, then that action is virtuous. If no, then the action is not virtuous, it's bad. Right? By the way, to understand this more clearly, the original conception of this is from Aristotle. So you need to understand what virtue is, di ba? Sa virtue ethics nga idea, a framework. Virtue is just one of two types of habits. Okay. By the way, unsa may kalahian sa habit of behavior? Habit is behavior done consistently over a long period of time. Kanang gibalik-balik na. Behavior, di ba kay nga? Your behavior was wrong yesterday. Nagpasabot ba na nga, kato nga behavior, imo tong gibalik-balik? No. Kato nga, single behavior ni magahapon, it was wrong. Di ba? Kausara, that's behavior. Lahi ang habit because habit is behavior repeated across a long period of time. Habit lang yung ginimo nga, for example, habit na nimo nga manigarilyo, right? Habit na lagi nimo nga mangikik ka, mangikik. So, in short, when we talk about habits, they're not just like behaviors nga kausar gibuhat, right? Habits are done over a long period of time, nagibalik-balik. Now, as I said, there are two types of habits. One of them is virtue. Because habits can either be good or bad, right? Good habits are habits that good people will do consistently. Bad habits are bad habits that bad people will do consistently. And simply na shortcut si Aristotle na ang virtue ethics. When you speak about good habits, that's called a virtue, right? When you have a bad habit, that's called a vice. All right? So that's the major difference. So in virtue ethics, you look at again, not just the act itself, but you question, is this act something that a person who is virtuous, a person that is good, that has good habits will do? Okay? So, anito sa mga practical examples din. So, for example, anita una sa Kantian, itong deontology. If the decision to raise the price of the life-saving drug by 5,000% is moral, and if it is intended to add value, then an individual is obligated to raise the price. Diba good man ang intention ko no sa katong gasaka sa price. What was his name again? Si Shkreli. Diba? Ay ang intention was, inigsaka niya sa price, natural, maka-income ang iyang negosyo. Diba? Kung maka-income iyang negosyo, magamit niya tong money for more research. Diba? Into how to make this life-saving HIV drug more accessible to everyone and more effective. Nasa intention, di ba? Iyang gisakaan ng price by 5,000% for a good reason. He has a good intention. It is that he wants to improve the medicine, the drug, so that more people will benefit from it more effectively. That was the intention. So, from this analysis, yes, okay na itong iyang gibuhat because he has a good intention. That's the deontological analysis. Lahi sa utilitarian ethics tingali. Ano na, your meeting will end in 10 minutes. Ito rin i-cut after this. So, sa utilitarian view, if the decision to raise the price adds value and usefulness for shareholders, then that decision should be made. In short, ang itanawan ni, malipay ba ni ang mga shareholders nga sakaan ni shareholders sa mga shareholders katong mga ning-invest sa imong company? Oh. Malipay ba ang mga ning-invest sa company ni Shkreli? If iyang sakaan ang price? Yes man. Malipay. So, if ang imong focus, ang concern ni Shkreli is ang kalipay sa majority sa iyang shareholders, then yes, that decision should be made. But I have a problem with this aspect sa libro because when you look at the utilitarian view, you do not just look at the shareholders. You look at everybody. You look at all of humanity. Will the pleasure, will the happiness of majority be increased when you increase the price by 5,000%? No. Diba? Because the world will look at you and say, mura man take advantage niya, diba? Ang demand, pagsaka sa demand, yan, gimahal kaayo. Will the world be happy with that? No. Because ma-restrict no ng access sa drug. So, daghang di maayo. Daghang dili makadawat sa drug because di sila kabayad tungod sa kamahal. In short, it actually decreases the utility. Diba? You're minimizing the cost. So, in short, mo po ni ang bantayan. Just because two people use the same framework, like utilitarianism ilang gigamit na framework, that does not mean nga pareha sila conclusions. Di sila pareha necessarily og conclusions as to whether the action is good or bad. Because magdepende na sa imuhang unit of analysis. Ang gibuhat sa libro is, ang yung unit of analysis is ang happiness sa majority sa iyang shareholders. But in my counter example, I was looking at the happiness of the entire human race. mas majority man ang masuko, di ba? If sakaan mo ang price. So, I would actually argue that the utilitarian action would be to decrease the price, wala to, not to raise to that extent the price of the drug. Oh. Kani, the Protestant work ethic, kinsa man ni? Kinsa may gasuwat aning the Protestant work ethic. This is by Max Weber, di ba? He was talking about Calvinism, blah, blah, blah. But we need not tackle that. Sumpay na siya sa utilitarianism. Nga, gitanawan ni ang investment. So, ingon. If the decision deals with a change that is financially sound and beneficial, if there are an adequate number of customers that need and value the HLV product and that are willing to pay the price, then that decision should be made. In short, mangita ka sa happy ang all, happy ang tanan. If daghan man di pong makabayad ra, bisan pagsakaan ng price, okay, kuan, kanang, sana, so in short, malipay ra ang company because mabaligya man ang tanan. Kunya, naara po yung mga customers nga makabayad ra pod kay mga dato nga HIV victims unya makabayad ra pod sumahurot ra po yung product sa gihapon. So happy ang majority. So mo na partisan work ethic nga analysis diri. But ang question lagi, majority ba dun sa mga HIV victims makapalit? No. So still I would disagree still nga the utilitarian view, even the Protestant ethic, work ethic view warrants saying that okay ra ang pagbaligya for a 5,000% increase in price from that. So, mo to ang utilitarian view and its extension, the Protestant work ethic view. Alright, last ang virtue ethics na claim. Ang example diri, if the price hike, according to virtue ethics, if the price hike is fair and equitable, if it is responsible to behave in this way, and if it does not cause harm to society, then the price should be raised. So, tanaw lang tibuok. Kuan man ang circumstances, tanaw nimo ang intention, tanaw pud nimo ang act itself kung good ba or bad. So, tanaw nimo holistically man virtue ethics. You look at what a responsible and virtuous person will do given the circumstances, given this scenario. So, ang erase kung it's something that a virtuous person will do. But that's the question. How do you know with zero doubt that this is something that the good person has to do? That's the problem there. So that's the limitation of really all virtue ethics and even all ethical frameworks models, because they can point to either direction, right? They can point to either direction because depende rin na kung saan mo pag-frame. A single ethical framework can justify two opposite actions, di ba? But still, we need these ethical frameworks because they at least give us the language by which to talk about ethical issues. Okay? So, class, kapit naman time, no? And we need to close this. But can anybody share his or her thoughts about the discussion so far? Sorry, Jud, akong dominate ang discussion, no? Hinay akong net, so gawin ata ilig on site. Anybody na may murag realizations or disagreement or question, point of clarification? Anyone? Okay, Mr. Jovimar, what's your concern?
Madungog ang background, sir.
Yes.
Sorry. Sorry, sir. Noisy, sir. Wala question na ako is wala ko kapas sa first ito nga na-discuss because of conveniences sa pag-install sa Zoom, and then
Okay.
first start ko na ako naka-use sa Zoom, so opo ko kabon sa ni siya paggamit. So while naka-enter ka ni ang absent na ako is kaning about sa katong kaning ethics, sir, and then even though na kayo miss although na kayo miss kaning nga part is mura din nasabtan ako kaya
Mm.
utilitarian,
Mm.
database and so, yes sir, mura to akong concern is ang first na gidiscuss nimo is wala na ko na pass.
Don't worry, di ma-worry kay ako ni i-upload. I recorded the discussion.
Mao po na akong question.
Ah,
Ay, yes sir. Ihapon to na ako pass na if i-upload ba nimo to YouTube para makuan na ma-review ra na mabalik ang na
ah.
first ni mga record.
Mo na rason nga straight akong storya kay ako mo ning record sa or ma-review rin ninyo.
Okay sir, thank you.
Kung i-upload. No worries. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Joviman. Wala na? So far, may raise og hand lain. Kindly, uh, ako na lang i-stop ang share ang script, ang recording ha. Kindly prepare your cams. Let's take a documentation na lang. Slan man. Uh, Wait. Can you turn on your cams for a while? So we can, if that's okay with you.